Welcome to the Derek Creason Show. This is episode 2 of my podcast. And to get started, first I just want to say thank you to everyone who listened to episode 1. I had a whopping 14 listens for my first episode, which was, in my opinion, not too bad from having mostly just friends and family listen to it from throwing it out there on social media. And the few feedback that I did get, people said they liked it, and they said I should keep doing it. So here I am, 5-6 weeks later, finally getting around to episode 2. So keep listening, keep subscribing, and I will occasionally put out new content. You can keep up with me. You can email me at derek@derekcreason.com. You can follow me on Twitter at derekcreason. And as always, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Pocket Casts, Anchor.fm, and now Radio Public. If there's any other platforms you think I should try and get this published to, let me know, and I will look into that. So let's get started. All right, first up is movie reviews and news. So since my last episode, it's been about, 6 weeks or so, and I've gotten to watch a few movies here and there. First up is The Foreigner. This movie is with Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan, and it was kind of not a political thriller, but just a good thriller movie about the IRA and in England and the terrorism and stuff. And it was I liked it. Pierce Brosnan played a pretty good bad guy, and Jackie Chan played, he wasn't the main character, he was just a character in the story. And how he was affected by the events of the movie, and it was still cool to see him go and kick butt at, age 68 or 70. He's got to be pretty old now. But it was a pretty good movie. I would rate it 4 buckets of popcorn, and that on my scale is good. So go check that one out. That one was a pretty good one. The next movie on my list that I watched was for Family Movie Night a few weeks back. We watched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's the third one. Yeah, we've been rewatching the movies with the kids as they've been finishing the books with Amy as she reads them. And these have been pretty decent. They still hold up even though they're a little old now. I would also rate this one 4 buckets of popcorn as good. Next up is All the Money in the World. This was an interesting movie about some old rich guy, I can't remember his name now, whose grandchild got kidnapped and he refused to pay the ransom, and he was just very selfish and greedy and never felt secure in the amount of money that he had. And it was just an interesting kind of storytelling about how all that plays out and how people, care more about money than they do about family. It was a good, interesting drama and good character study, and I rated that one as, 3 buckets of popcorn. The next one on the list is Avengers Infinity War. So this is the movie I talked about last podcast. I've been waiting to go see. We've been hyped up for a long time. It's been a good 10 years in the making, and they absolutely nailed it. It was amazing. They did a great job of telling the story. There was a good story arc for Thanos, the villain. They did an awesome job of balancing out the 50 million characters they had to put in to the movie, and they all had good side missions that affected the main plot. I'm not going to give away any spoilers yet because some of you people still might not have seen it, but it was absolutely amazing. I gave it 5 buckets of popcorn, my highest rating, which is great. I actually can't wait to see it again. I can't wait for the sequel next May. Marvel has just done a tremendous job with these characters in these movies and building this shared universe, and they're making billions of dollars off of it, and they should. It's highly entertaining. It's a great movie. Go see it. Go watch all of them if you can. The whole Marvel Cinematic Universe and how it ties together is really just a lot of fun. So next up is The Greatest Showman. This is a musical with Hugh Jackman and that other guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But it was about how the circus got started in the late 1920s or so, about P.T. Barnum. And it was actually very well done. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of musicals at all. But the amount of talent and creativity that went into this movie. It really shows. The cinematography and the colors were amazing, with all the camera angles and shots, and just the music. Whoever wrote it did an amazing job. It was very well put together. It sounded like a lot of new pop music, but with original. It was all original songs, but you'd think, oh, that sounds like a Rihanna song, or oh, that sounds like a such and such popular song, but put in the 1930s, 1920s, 1930s time period. It was just very creative, very new, very out there idea, and I really liked it from all that creative aspects of it. And the story was good and interesting, and Hugh Jackman did a great job, and it's just a good movie. So I gave that one 4 buckets of popcorn. It was really good. And then last night, I was able to sneak away to the movie theater, and I went and saw Rampage. Now, I didn't have a lot of huge expectations for this movie because it's based on an old 1980s video game where you just pick one of the 3 monster characters and run around and break the buildings to get points. So, obviously, they had a lot of room to write a story in there, and they wrote somewhat of a story. It was entertaining. I would give it 3 buckets of popcorn. I rated okay. The Rock did a good job. He did fine. The CGI was actually amazing. It didn't look bad at all. You couldn't tell that it was fake at all. And getting to see Chicago get destroyed was pretty neat because having been there just last fall, I was like, oh, I've been to there. I've been to that intersection. I've seen that building. I've seen that building. So it was just kind of neat to see that, recognize all the landmarks as they get destroyed. The story wasn't huge on plot, but then again, it didn't really need to be. So it was just kind of a entertaining, smash 'em up action kind of movie. So could have been a little better, but it wasn't bad at all. So I gave it 3 buckets of popcorn. So that's all the movies that I've seen in the last 6 or 7 weeks since my last episode. So let me know what you think about them. You can email me, Derek@Creason.com, or hit me up on Twitter. Actually, I don't have my reviews up on Twitter for the last 2 or 3 of these. I got to get them up on Twitter. But I will always have these ratings up on Twitter with the buckets of popcorn emojis you'll see on there. So reply to me and let me know what you think. Yay or nay, better or worse. So now on to movie news. Basically, I was just looking to see what all movies are coming out. We're getting into blockbuster season in the early summer. I think next week the Han Solo movie comes out, and while I love Star Wars and the Star Wars universe, and the previews for the Han Solo movie look awesome with the Millennium Falcon and lasers and space fights and lightsabers and all kinds of cool Star Wars story and characters. It looks amazing, but the actor they picked to play Han Solo, at least from the previews, just doesn't do it for me. I don't know, maybe, obviously that's a big shoes to fill anyways. Someone come in and say, hey, can you do what Harrison Ford did for the last 30 years and do it well? That's a big ask of any actor. So props to the guy who tried to do it. I haven't seen it yet, so I'll withhold complete judgment, but just a first look, I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to be as good as I want it to be. So this may be the first Star Wars movie I actually don't get to in the theater, depending on how much free time I get. But I will eventually definitely watch it, whether that be on Netflix or Redbox or whatever. But hopefully the reviews will come out and people will say it's awesome, and then I'll be more inclined to go see it. Here's hoping. In other news, movie news, I just read that they are going to push ahead and make a Rambo 5 with Sylvester Stallone. So I think that will be interesting. Those movies don't have a ton of story, but I do like the action in them, and Stallone seems to be pretty true to his character, and since he usually writes and directs or produces, he doesn't always do all of those, but he's usually heavily involved in his movies and those aspects of it. I think it'll probably be a decent story with a lot of violent action, which is exactly what I would expect out of a Rambo movie. I liked Rambo 4 a lot when it came out 7, 8, 10 years ago. I don't know. So we'll see how this one does when it comes out, probably in a year or so, and hopefully it'll be cool as well. And then finally, the last big movie that I'm looking forward to this summer is the Jurassic World sequel. And The previews look really cool. They go in on a rescue mission to save some of the dinosaurs from a volcano, and just another Jurassic Park movie where people are obviously going to get eaten by dinosaurs and chased by dinosaurs. And that's all I really want from a Jurassic Park movie is, a decent story with people running away from dinosaurs and or trying to shoot at dinosaurs. And the CGI to look awesome. And I'm sure that's exactly what we're going to get, and it's going to be entertaining and a lot of fun. So we will see come June or July when that comes out, and hopefully it'll be really cool. So that's all I have for movie reviews and news. Alright, next up is TV shows. This is an optional segment that I will do from time to time, just to talk about TV shows, obviously. So I don't get to watch a lot of TV, and when I do, I watch it on demand, usually at nighttime after the kids have all gone to bed, so I'll get to watch an episode, maybe 2 of something, and then try to get some sleep before I have to get up and start the next day. So my Netflix queue is completely full of tons of TV shows that I want to get to watch, and eventually I will get to them. I don't know when, but so right now I'm trying to finish up the TV show Breaking Bad. I'm in season 5. I'm like, I don't know, 7 or 8 episodes in. I just want to get this show finished with. I took a big long break in season 3 and season 4. It's an interesting show, but it's just been so slow paced that it just drags on and drags on. I just want to finish it and be done with the story. I don't like not finishing a TV show. So I've only, got 12 or 13 episodes left to go. I just need to get it done and finished. The 5th season has been a lot better so far since the 3rd and 4th seasons were slow. But so that's where I'm at on that. Another show that me and Amy like to watch is called The Blacklist on NBC. This is a pretty good show. We are actually fairly caught up on it. I think maybe only 1 episode or 2 behind. But it's a good show, good kind of spy, FBI, crime thriller. It's a good show, so go back and find it on Netflix and watch it. It's not too bad. Another show we like to watch is Survivor, and we usually watch this just for the silliness. Like, it's pretty much the only reality TV show that I watch. I started watching it 6-7 years ago, so I don't know, I've watched probably 10 or 12 seasons of it, and it's always entertaining to see what challenges they come up with and what personalities they come out with, and just kind of get to debate and pick and choose. Oh, I think so-and-so will win or mess up or do this because, try to plot the strategy of what you would do with the little hour they show you of like 3 days of their time, and they edit it to show it a certain way. So it's kind of fun and silly. And the big thing I always laugh at is when people in Survivor are like, I'm in the middle between these 2 groups, and I have all the power to pick or choose which group goes forward. And they almost always end up getting voted out that episode or the next episode. People in the middle never have the power. So just remember that if you ever get a chance to go play Survivor. Next up is a sitcom, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It is a sitcom just set in a police precinct is the setting for it, and it's just funny, witty humor with lots of creative jokes, and it's on Hulu, I think. Maybe Netflix too, but it's a really funny show, and we finally caught up on that. So it's a good time with Andy Samberg from Saturday Night Live. So go watch that, it's funny. And then the next show that I watched recently was Lost in Space. This is one of the new Netflix shows. There's a ton of new Netflix shows that I want to watch, Netflix original content, and they'll release a whole season at a time, so you can binge watch it or watch it an episode here and there as you please. But the new Lost in Space reboot, remake, and it was actually very good and very entertaining. And Amy really liked it a lot, and she is not a science fiction fan. She will tell you that. I'm not being mean to her. She generally just doesn't care for science fiction. But it had a lot of good story and character, and she always couldn't wait to see the next episode to see what happened. So I'm excited to see when they'll drop season 2 so we can find out what happens next in the story. So that's all I got on TV news and TV shows I've been watching. Let me know if there's any other really good TV shows I should watch. Alright, next up is music. So basically, I just want to talk about some of the cool new songs I come across lately, and that's really all I got for today. They got no new concerts or shows that I'm going to get to go to anytime soon. And I haven't heard any super song that's so terrible that's worth mentioning or lambasting on my awesome podcast. So my favorite new song I've been listening to lately is actually a cover song. It's called Zombie. It's by Bad Wolves. It's actually a cover of the old Cranberries song from the 90s. You may have heard it. It was pretty catchy back then, but this is just a little slower and a little heavier version of it, kind of metal. I'll see if I can play a quick piece of it here and see if it'll pick up on my microphone. So that is a segment of it. I don't know actually if it recorded now because my app logged in and out. So it's a pretty neat little song. Go look it up and see if you like it or not. The other cool song I've heard lately is called RX, or Prescription, by Theory of a Deadman. It's basically a song about drugs. It's actually about the opioid crisis in America, and it's really catchy. I'm sure you might have heard it on the radio. It's somewhat negative, but it's such a catchy tune, and it's not necessarily a bad message, but I think it just does a good job of pointing out, like, hey, like, everyone struggles with drugs, and we should do something about it. So it's a good, catchy song. So that's all I got on music today. All right, next up is news and politics. So the first thing I want to cover in news is there is a volcano in Hawaii, and it has erupted. This happened on Thursday or Friday, just a few days ago, and it's a volcano on their biggest island, and it's forced about 1,700 people to have to evacuate. I haven't read tons about it. I've just only really been looking at the pictures and videos that I've seen online, just because how often do you get to see a volcano erupt? Not that often. You can actually see pictures of it from space. It's kind of cool. So hopefully, I really don't know much about what's going on, but hopefully they're able to help people and no one's getting hurt or killed from it. But it did inspire me to go back and dig in my DVD collection and dig out the movie Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones from 1997 the other day, and I put this on and watched it in the background during a Saturday afternoon, and that's still a good movie. It's exciting to watch him run around and just say, hey, we're going to stop this here, we're going to do this there, and the movie actually holds up really well. The only funny thing is looking at the cell phones and computer monitors from 20 years ago, but that's just the computer nerd in me that likes to look at the technology, the best they had back then, and compare it to what we use nowadays. So that's the first big major news story I wanted to cover. So hopefully they're keeping everyone safe and getting everyone help and getting evacuated out of there safely, and we'll keep an eye on it as it progresses. Next up, there's a ton of news about other stuff that I didn't really want to cover. There's basically whenever you turn on the news or look, it's Trump this, Mueller that, Russia this, Syria that, etc., etc., etc. Basically, it can all be summed up in most politicians are worthless human beings, and you all should get different jobs. So, yeah, I just don't really want to talk about the news today. There's nothing major, not even on like the conspiracy websites, that seems worth talking. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the news today. All right, next up is computer nerdery. I know I keep telling myself to stop saying that word, but that's just the best word I can come up with to describe this section. So, for new tech items, I know last time I mentioned that Galaxy S9s were on the horizon, and funny enough, I actually got a new Galaxy S9. I have T-Mobile, and I'm going to plug them here real quick. I get no compensation from them, but I just like them. They came out with a new military plan, and I switched to it, and I'm actually going to save about $20 a month off my plan, and now get my Netflix included, so that'll save me another $10. So I'm going to save $30 a month by switching to their new plan, and I still get unlimited everything. which is pretty cool, and I think it's pretty neat that they're offering reduced rates to support the military. So props to T-Mobile for them. And then also they happen to have a sale on the new Galaxy S9s right now for 50% off. So I already had the money set aside, save up for new phones, so it was nice to be able to go ahead and get those at half price for me and Amy. So she's having a little bit of fun time trying to get used to switching to Android because she's been on an iPhone for the last few years. But she's doing okay, and she's getting it. And I think she'll like it once she finally gets used to everything. So I like the new S9. I had Galaxy S6 before, and the screen is a major upgrade, just the amount of resolution and colors. And then also the speed, just the CPU is just so much faster, and it's got more RAM, so all the app switching works a lot faster. So obviously, because it's a 3 years newer phone. But so those are the big things I've noticed on it. I like it. And I like that I can throw in a 128 gig SD card, so I got lots of room for music and movies that I download for offline use. Most of the time you're streaming that stuff anyways nowadays. But so the Galaxy S9s are cool, new phones, go get it. Not perfect, but it's still a pretty cool phone. So next up is the breach of the week. So one of my favorite websites, the hackernews.com, is a good place to go to, and you can always read up about computer news and or vulnerabilities that have come out and affect things. It came out just on Friday, May 4th, that 8 new vulnerabilities were found in the Intel CPUs that were just like Spectre. So a lot of you people who aren't in the tech world may not know, you may have heard about it in the news. It got a lot of publicity and basically just scared a lot of executives and politicians and managers into making sure their IT people got their stuff updated. So those patches were kind of a pain to install because they were processor-based and BIOS-based type patches, as opposed to just application-level patches like Windows or Oracle or Cisco or whatever. And when people patched their servers to stop these vulnerabilities, it made their servers not run at the same amount of optimization that they had before. So you might not get as much efficiency out of your RAM or your hard drive space or your CPU cycles or whatever. And so while the patch stopped the vulnerability, it also lowered the operating efficiency of a lot of servers. And depending on how people have their environments configured, if they were running a little too lean on resources, that might have caused problems for them. So there's 8 new vulnerabilities that have come out that are just as bad, so who knows when all the patches will start coming out for them. And then when the patch cycles come around for anybody in IT, they will get to have the funness of testing that, installing them, seeing how well it works, and navigating the risk versus reward of, hey, are we going to patch development? Are we going to patch production now? But if we patch production, we're going to lose this much percentage of efficiency or revenue or whatever. So lots of things to think about whenever you're in IT management around security and vulnerabilities and efficiency and productivity and bottom line cost to the business. So go check that out, read up on it. There's always fun things going on in that type of area. Also, next up is the tip of the day. Kind of related to the breach of the week, but the tip of the day is to go update your Twitter password. If you use Twitter, you should go change your password. Twitter sent out a message urging all of its 330 million users to change their passwords after a software glitch unintentionally exposed all their passwords by storing them in a readable text on its internal computer server. So they accidentally put your passwords in a plain text file and didn't have it encrypted. Who knows what all had access to it or didn't have access to it, but they're playing it better safe than sorry. And as a general rule of thumb, it's always good for these companies to have to disclose when they have had potential vulnerabilities as well as vulnerabilities, or breaches, not vulnerabilities. When they've had breaches or potential breaches, it's just better to be upfront and honest with that than to try to cover it up like, I can't remember the name of the company now, where they basically blamed a whole bunch of people and blamed it on some IT worker that was told to do something and didn't do something. It was actually kind of a hysterical story. But anyways, go update your Twitter passwords and keep your stuff safe. As a side note to that, I would recommend using a password service like LastPass. It does all the password encryption on your local stuff, so it doesn't store it in the cloud. And you can just remember one really complex password, and then it ties into your phone, your web browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, whatever you're using. And after you've used it for a month or two or three, you basically, every time you log into something, it saves your password to it. So all your passwords are saved in one nice place. So if you lose your laptop or your hard drive dies, you're like, oh, I had them all saved in a text file, or oh, they were all saved in an Excel file. That you can have them all saved in this database that's securely encrypted. You can get to them anywhere from your phone, from any computer. Just download the plugin to your browser, log in, and boom, there's all your passwords. It's super nice. You can autofill all your passwords on your phone when you're logging in different apps and trying to type stuff. You can do, it has a nice security feature in there. It'll tell you, hey, you reused this password on these 25 sites. Maybe you should change it. You can even log into a lot of sites and auto-change it for you. I've set up probably 75% of my passwords now to belong just gibberish, just strings of gibberish. I have no idea what they are, but they're all managed through LastPass, so I just click the autofill button and log in, and away they go. And so a lot of my accounts are more secure because the passwords are gibberish, and I couldn't tell you them if I wanted to. You could try to extort me for them, and I'd be like, I don't know what it is. I only know the one password into my password managing vault. So LastPass is really cool. Go check it out. I would highly recommend it. All right, next up is faith. So I didn't find any good news articles for my faith news section, but I did want to talk about a couple different Bible verses. And the first one that I want to talk about was just about encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." And I just wanted to remind some people, many fellow Christians, just be encouraging. I know it's all too easy to get caught up in the drama and the busyness of life and the world, and it's really easy to just be negative and disgusted and discouraged about what's going on in the world, let alone what other Christians are doing in the church, etc. And I just wanted to take a few seconds to encourage you, just say, stay the course, stay focused on God's Word, and try to live out the principles you see in there. Give each other grace. It takes a lot of grace because people are always going to be people, no matter whether they're lost or if they've been saved by God. It just, people are still going to be people. They're going to do the best what they think they can, but, you might not always agree or like it. And sometimes you're just going to have to learn to give each other grace and love each other still. So I just want to give people encouragement to try to remember to do that and to treat each other with love and respect. And then lastly, the other verses I wanted to read were Romans 8, from Romans 8. Romans 8 is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. It's just an awesome chapter on how we'll never measure up to God standards, and it absolutely does not matter if He has chosen to give you His saving grace. There's a lot of depth in there, and it just means a lot, and it's very refreshing when I get very discouraged to go back and read Romans 8, and just a short excerpt from it. In verse 3, it says, "For what the law could not do, weak as it was through the flesh, God did, sending His own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and as an offering for sin, He condemned sin in the flesh, so that the requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit." And that's just so cool that God was willing to send His own Son to save us and to be the sacrifice and to meet that standard that we fail to meet every single day. And that's such an amazing act of love. And a lot of times I think people don't understand that or forget that or want to yell at Christians and Christianity for being negative and hateful. And the whole religion, the whole idea of Christianity is based on love. And, John 3:16 talks about how God offers that love to us. And but what I really like is the verse right after it, John 3:17. that's not as well known or as well quoted as John 3:16. But verse 17 says, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that in order that the world through him might be saved." God came to save as many people as he could. And while that's not going to be everybody, that was an act of love. And it's just, I hope that through some of these little Bible verse studies that you can start to understand that or pique your interest in it. And if you have any questions about that, or go look up the Romans Road, and that'll give you a list of verses to start looking through, or just read the book of Romans or First John. There's a ton of good stuff in the New Testament on doctrine and theology about the who and why, and I know that might appeal to some people a little bit more who are a little bit more, they would think of themselves as rational-minded or intellectual, and sometimes they think that people who follow religion are small-minded. And I would argue the opposite, that if you get into studying philosophy and theology and doctrine, there is so much depth and so much stuff to be studied and learned in the scriptures that it's quite the rabbit hole, and there's a ton of resources out there, and I would encourage you to start studying it. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel is a great book of somebody who was very smart and said this is a bunch of junk, and he set out to disprove it, and he ended up not being able to, and was converted to Christianity. So that's a good book. You can always email me or hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to point you to some tools and references, and go visit a church, find a good Bible-believing church, and listen to some of the messages. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Let you all know that I'm praying for everyone who hears this podcast. I hope that God blesses you in your life, and that's all I got for today on faith. Alrighty, well that is going to do it for episode 2 today on the Derek Creason Show. So I want to thank you guys for listening, and I hope you will subscribe. You can listen to this, like I said earlier, on iTunes, Pocket Cast, Anchor.fm, Radio Public, and I'm always looking to try to add new platforms, so let me know if there's any other ones you want me to try to get it put onto. You can always email me, Derek at DerekCreason.com, or talk to me on Twitter at Derek Creason. So thank you for listening, and hope to hear you guys and talk to you guys soon.